Hi everyone, good morning. Sorry for being late. There has been some connection issues. Right then, see, I have started the so-called um, Western political thought. I used to say what exactly is this in the last class. If you have a look at this, I discussed what is the syllabus, what is previous year questions in Western political thought, what is the books that you have to refer for this, right? And then I discussed what is Western political thought. This is what we have discussed: political thought and West, right? Look at this. I discussed in my last class. Thought is thinking of an age. Try to understand the broad way of thinking of an age. Now, what we are doing, we are trying to understand the way of thinking of people of a particular age with reference to space and time. That is called thought. As we are studying about the thought of Western people, this is called as Western political thought. This I have studied and I have said how the things have evolved over a period of time from this. This is what we have discussed in our last class. Let's start with first thing today. If you don't remember what we have discussed the other class, please watch the previous videos. Now I'll be continuing with a new thing that is called Greek political thought. Greek political thought. Now in that, the Western political thought starts in Greek. Western political thought starts in Greek because Greek civilization is the oldest civilization in the West. Oldest civilization in the West. As a result, it is this civilization or it is this Greek civilization which has given a political thought for the very first time, and we try to understand the thinking of the people of the Greece in the old ancient times. In the ancient times, we try to understand how people thought in Greece. How we are going to think that, or how we are going to understand that? We are going to understand that through two thinkers known as Plato and Aristotle. These two are the Greek thinkers, and we try to understand the phenomena from these two people. Normally, what people say is what people say is the entire Western political thought, the entire Western political thought is nothing but a footnote of Plato and Aristotle. The entire Western political thought is nothing but a footnote of Plato or Aristotle. Look at this. This is what the Western political thought is all about, right? All the thinkers here. Now, entire this thing is a result of the so-called Plato and Aristotle. Whenever you are writing about Plato or Aristotle, you have to write these things. That is one thing that I wanted to say. Now, what does this statement mean? The entire Western political thought is nothing but a footnote of Plato and Aristotle. Now, what does this statement mean? Now, this statement means to recognize the importance of contribution of these thinkers. Importance of contribution of these thinkers. Whatever these thinkers have said, whatever these thinkers have said, entire Western political thought is a reflection of this. How it is a reflection of that? Now, The entire political science, whatever you study, whatever dimensions you study in political science, had their origin in their work. Origin is in their work. Look at entire Western political thought. Political science, I said, it discusses about state. It discusses about how citizens has to be there in the state, how government has to be in the state, what happens if government is not functioning, revolution happens, which type of government is good government or best government to stop this revolution, what are the, in order to stop this revolution, what you have to do, government has to do welfare or justice, welfare state, right? And then they also speak what are the duties of citizens, what are the duties of state. So whatever you study again in the political science, that will have the background of Western political thought. That is, Plato and Aristotle has studied this for the first time. All the concepts of political science are studied by Plato and Aristotle, and they left nothing in political science. It appears that they left nothing in political science. And as they left nothing to study for the next political thinkers, the next scholars in the political science discipline, did only one work. What is that work? They just did commentary on the above works. They just did commentary on the above works. As a result, Western political thought is nothing but commentary of Plato and Aristotle. It is nothing but footnotes of commentary and footnotes of Plato and Aristotle. It is nothing but the so-called explanation of Plato and Aristotle. So this statement clearly shows that the contributions done by the Greek thinkers called Plato and Aristotle are very significant in political science. And it has to be known that Plato is known as the father of political philosophy and Aristotle is known as the father of political science. Why they are called as such, we'll discuss later. I said why Plato is called political philosophical, why he is called as father of political philosophy in my first chapter. I'll discuss why Aristotle is called as political science, father of political science later. Right? So the thing is, so the thing is, all the political thought that we are going to study, entire political thought is a footnote of Plato and Aristotle. So if they ask this statement or whenever you are writing this, what does this statement mean? This statement clearly indicates the contribution done by Plato and Aristotle to Western political thought. Plato and Aristotle have studied almost everything in the political science, starting from the state, starting from citizens, who has to get citizenship, who has to get voting rights, how the government has to be formed, which type of government is the best government, if the government is not best government, revolution is going to occur, how to stop revolution, and how to create a welfare state, what are the duties of the state, what are the duties of its citizens. So they have commented on each and every domain of political science and each and every stakeholder of the political science. As a result, the next thinkers who have come in line in the West, they are just adding commentaries to whatever that was said by the so-called Plato and Aristotle, or they were just explaining whatever Plato and Aristotle has said, or you can also call that as they are just giving footnotes to what they have said. So it appears that nothing was left by these scholars like Plato and Aristotle. As a result, the entire Western political thought is known as the footnotes of Plato and Aristotle. This is the first statement that you have to remember. What does this mean? This is the thing. So Western political started in Greek and it has its roots in Plato and Aristotle. Both have contributed enormously for the growth of Western political thought as such. Now, in that you can also write, in the same statement, you can also write Plato is known as the father of political science, philosophy. Aristotle is known as father of political science. That's two things. Now, in order to understand what is the idea of these scholars, In order to understand what is the idea of these scholars, you have to understand what was the Greek way of life. In order to understand what these philosophers have said, you have to understand the Greek way of life at that time. I said that thought is knowing a person or knowing the thinking of people of a particular space and particular time. Right. So Western political thought starts with Greek. Let's know what is the way of life in the ancient times in Greek. It gives the idea about Plato's thoughts and Aristotle's thoughts. Now, why you have to know this period of time? Why you have to know the essential qualities of life of that time? Because there was one person called Lasky, J. L. Lasky. He has said that every thinker is a child of his times. Every thinker is a child of his times. This is the statement given by Lasky. And Jawaharlal Nehru's teacher is Lasky. Okay. Who is Lasky? Jawaharlal Nehru, when he was studying, he was taught by J. L. Lasky. Right? Now, every thinker is a child of his times. What does this mean? Time is going to be a very influential factor on the thought of the scholars. So whatever scholars think, they think with a certain time, within a certain time framework, within some space framework. And every thinker is not only a product of his time, but he is also a product of his community. He is also a product of his community. Community shapes a person. Community shapes a person, and it shapes the so-called thought of a person. Now, let's try to understand what is the time of Greece in the ancient times or ancient Greek. Let's try to understand the ancient Greek society so that you can understand much depth about Plato and Aristotle. In order to understand these two scholars, you have to understand what is the Greek society composed by that point of time when Aristotle or Plato lived. Now, the first thing of Greek society is Greeks at the time of Plato and Aristotle, they were living in a city state. They were living in city states. Now, the city state is much smaller compared to the modern nation states. Modern nation states. What is the difference between a modern nation state and city states? In size, it is far less than the modern nation states, and it is highly decentralized. Highly decentralized. Unlike the modern nation states, which are decentralized, they are very highly decentralized, and each state is a sort of self-sufficient entity. Every state is very self-sufficient. As a result, there is no much dependence of one state, one city state on the other city state. So these are the three or two conditions which existed in the ancient Greek city. First thing is ancient Greek city is composed of, or Greeks were living in city states. These city states, when compared to the modern nation states, they were very less in their size, and they were very decentralized in such a way that there is self-sufficient entity. They are self-sufficient entities in themselves. Now, since it was very small in its area, very small in its area, they found no difference between social and political. The size is very small, unlike the modern nation states. As a result, they find no difference between what is social, what is political. Samadikam or Rajakiyam అంటూ ఎటువంటి differences లేవు. They found that society and the state was overlapping. State and society was overlapping. That is what they have found, which means there is no difference between social and political. Rather, social and political are overlapping as per these people because of the small size of the entity. Next, so as a result, as there is no difference between social and political for these people, they consider that man is by nature a social animal. By nature, a social animal. As he is by nature a social animal, and hence man is also by nature a political animal. A political animal. This was famously said by Aristotle. Now, how Aristotle has said is this: because the city states are very small in size, as a result, there is no difference between social and political in these states. As man is a product of social animal, as man is said to be a social animal, he is also known as political animal because social and political is same to Aristotle. Right. So this statement clearly indicates, this statement of Aristotle clearly indicates in the ancient Greek societies there is no much difference between social and political. So this is the political system or the social system which existed in the so-called Greek, ancient Greek. Now, if you look at the economic system of the ancient Greeks, economic system, just like the ancient Indian civilization, Greek civilization was an agricultural society. Agricultural society. As it is an agricultural society, it requires huge labor work, right? In order to have this labor, there used to be slaves who used to do that labor. As a result, the economic system of Greek was dependent on slaves. Why? Slaves serve the labor because it is an agricultural society. Even if you consider the Indian civilization also, if you look at the traditional Indian civilization, even you will have some people who are working in jamindari lands or in the lands of some big farmers. In the big farmers' houses, jamindari houses, there will be some people who will be working, right? Right. Similarly, here also, as it is a very agrarian society, as it requires huge labor, slaves trade was dominant. Hence, slaves are dominant systems in the economic system. Economic system was running on slaves. As a result, slaves are having functional utility in Greek city. What is that functional utility? Work on the land. They work on farms. Hence, slavery is a functional utility